If you're watching this video, that means you've been invited to participate in what we're calling Group Launch Phase 2. At our church, we're trying to strengthen group life so that our groups are stronger and healthier, and our church is stronger and healthier. So Phase 1 is already in progress. So whoever's leading your group is already in a Phase 1 group, has already been doing this for at least a couple of weeks. And this is the Phase 2 of this process. Now, the goal is a three-part goal. We're trying to establish a reproducible process for making disciples in a group setting. And we'll get more into that. I know maybe you want to pause and think about that for a second, but we're going to be explaining that in the next couple of weeks together. But all of this really comes from Ephesians chapter 4, where Paul talks about unity in the body of Christ. And he's basically explaining how the church is supposed to work. And let's take a look in verse 11. It says this: God gave apostles, prophets, evangelists, shepherds, teachers. So basically your paid staff, if you want to think of it as that, or your key leadership in your church. And what did he give them for? To equip. So the role of the pastor is to mentor. So the pastors are supposed to mentor, and that's actually what's happening in the Phase 1 group. That's the group with the pastors and the leaders in the church, and those are the mentors of the church, and that's where it starts according to Paul. And then it says this: they equip. Who do they equip? They equip the saints for the work of the ministry, for building up the body of Christ. And so the pastors mentor and the people minister. And this is exactly what we're going to be investigating together. How can we create a reproducible process for making disciples in a group setting? Well, the only way we're going to do that is if we can learn how people can minister, how everybody in the church can minister. And this Phase 2 group is a big part of that. It's about getting that key leadership level in the church actually getting involved in ministry and beginning to do ministry, which we'll be talking about in the next couple of weeks. And the ultimate goal is that we all attain the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God to mature manhood. And so the goal is that everyone matures. So when the pastors mentor and the people minister, everyone matures. And that's how Paul says it's supposed to work in the church. Now, we're going to talk more about this next week, but for now, let's just go on and make a comment here about this group in Phase 2. The commitment here is simply to participate in this group for 6 weeks. That's it. And then to be a part of the brainstorm session before Phase 3. So we'll talk about what will Phase 3 look like as a church. We'll talk about that in a brainstorm session with all of the key leaders who have been a part of these first 2 phases. Now, if you're already meeting as a group, let's say that you're a leadership team and maybe your pastor already meets with you for the purposes of leadership in your church, that's fine. We're not asking you to start a new group. We'll talk about your group in the next video as we talk about how we're going to run the group. But before we get to that, why don't you hit pause and talk about this question here in red before we move on to the next video?